Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into the Hog Hoop Report with Kevin McPherson. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Kevin, new week, same story. Another 0-2 week in the SEC as the Hogs fell to Vandy on Tuesday, and then yesterday fell to Kentucky, 111 to 102. Let's get right into it. What's just your overall general reaction to another not good week for Arkansas?
Well, remember, last week at this time, we're talking about Arkansas's first one and only two-game winning streak in league play. And then the Hogs turn around with a half-hearted effort at home against Vanderbilt, arguably the worst team in the league. Vandy's got 3 wins. Mizzou was still winless. But when you look at the overall mark and the net, Vandy's the worst team in the SEC. And so Arkansas, kind of skipped a beat there and looked like some of these other poor performances we'd seen. And then against Kentucky, Arkansas actually plays with energy, effort, looked like a team that was in it to win it. But it was a situation where Arkansas decided to go ahead and play up tempo. I was surprised by that, especially after Arkansas grinded the tempo down in the previous meeting in Fayetteville, a game Arkansas could have won. This is another game Arkansas could have won. Arkansas was able to match up. It was a good matchup for the Hogs Kentucky in both games, but in both games, the Hogs checked up just short. We've seen Arkansas beaten by double digits in so many games in the SEC, and some of it's 20-plus points, blowouts. But against Kentucky, both results were in single-digit final margins. Not a moral victory, but the point is, this is a really good Kentucky team when you look at it from a talent and an elite offense standpoint. But that 111-102 kind of surprised me. Arkansas was a high water mark for the Hogs scoring in league play. Obviously, the defense and the three-point defense, when you get in a track meet like that, when you're playing at that pace at both ends, it's hard. It's hard to stay disciplined in your coverages. I thought there were times where Arkansas did a good job, but advantage offense, especially with an elite offense like Kentucky has. But you saw, you look at Caleb Battle, 3 consecutive games of 30-plus points. The last guy to do that at Arkansas was Mason Jones, and that crazy co-SEC Player of the Year when Arkansas went 7-11 in the league and had a co-Player of the Year in the league. That's how good he was. But was consistently good. I think he had 9 games of 30 more that year. We know Caleb Battle's just kind of finally arriving on the scene and some of the things he can do, but spectacular nonetheless. Tremont Mark, 23 points, took 14 shots inside the arc and somehow didn't get to the free throw line. I thought that was odd. But, credit Kentucky. Wildcats won on the glass. Arkansas won in the turnover department. Both teams shot well over 50% in this game. Kentucky's offense just a little bit better. But look, Arkansas held a couple of 9-point leads, Evan, in the final 10 minutes. And then Kentucky, there's too much time on the clock. And Kentucky playing at home, I knew that offense, Arkansas was going to have to be really, really good. Despite building a 9-point lead, a 3-possession lead, Arkansas was going to have to be really, really good down the stretch to hold on. And Kentucky was just better.
And you look at kind of Caleb Battle, and I'm happy that you brought him up already because early in the season, and we've talked about this week in and week out, where Battle was averaging at one point, over 20 points per game, and then he went on that really cold December, January run, and now to see him really going back to form is a nice thing for the Hogs, and unfortunately, it is too little too late, where, now you're looking at an 11-12 seed in the SEC tournament in a couple weeks in Nashville and a potential rematch against Vanderbilt on that Wednesday. But to see Battle kind of do well, but the big thing about this game is it's hard to win when, you didn't get a ton of minutes out of Trevin Brazil, but even on the flip side, Chandler Lawson and Mekhi Mitchell both fouled out, and Eric Musselman said after the game that was problematic.
It was problematic. We know Arkansas's had problems all year with either guys getting in foul trouble. Between players and head coach, Arkansas had a combination of 4 flagrant 1 technicals, you name it, and those things also hurt you, especially in a close game against a good team. Good teams don't make those kind of mistakes as consistently as Arkansas seems to do. So it's been one of those seasons where you can point to a lot of things. Foul trouble and guys fouling out, certainly part of it. This Arkansas team fouls a lot. It's a team that gets the free throw line a lot, but it's also a team that fouls a lot. And here's what we're facing now, Evan. The reality of all these issues that snowballed, and I don't think Arkansas has been as ugly losing as it was starting 1-6 in league play. 4-5 since then hasn't been as ugly, but still a loss is a loss and losing is losing. 14-15 overall record, back below 500 after the 0-2 week. And look, Arkansas's got to split these last 2 games, LSU at home on Wednesday and at Alabama, who's fighting for another SEC regular season championship on next Saturday. Arkansas loses one of those two, they're guaranteed a losing record in the regular season as they wrap up the regular season going to the SEC tournament. And if that's the case, then you've got to win multiple games to prevent from having a losing overall record. Arkansas at 5-11 right now. We know they were already assured before the Kentucky result of having a losing league mark when the dust settles at the end of the regular season. But 11 losses, that's the most Musselman's had. He's had 3 of his 5 seasons. Arkansas's had a losing record in the SEC. Year 1, 7-11. Arkansas loses again. He'll establish there'll be a new low water mark for losing in the SEC. In fact, that'd be the worst. That'd be the most losses Arkansas's had in league play going back 15 years to that year that John Pelfrey sunk the program to its lowest of lows. 2-14 that team went. So Arkansas needs to win out to prevent more bad history. I don't think that's going to happen, Evan. I think at best Arkansas is looking at 1-1 this week. If the Razorbacks can salvage 2.0, obviously then you start to talk about, well, can they get on a run and win 5 games in 5 days in the SEC tournament? Because that's what it would take to punch the ticket to the big dance. I just don't see it. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas loses out at this point, despite the fact that Arkansas play well. I think Kentucky's a good matchup. LSU did not look like a good matchup on the road when Arkansas lost by 21. We'll see how that plays out in Fayetteville. Maybe the season finale at home, Arkansas can win that maybe, and then see what happens at Alabama. But this is an Arkansas team we've known for a while that's probably headed nowhere. I think they've convinced all of us by now. They'll be lucky to finish with an overall winning record or break 500 at this point. I just don't see that. And then you look at the future of the program. I don't know where that goes because I've been saying this for a while. Eric Musselman's had his feelers out since before the season started, and you continue to hear things. And so right now I lean toward maybe Arkansas has a coaching search when that coaching carousel gets cranked up here in just a few weeks. In addition to portal recruiting, that adds a whole lot of different flavor to everything if you're in that situation, because recruiting really can't take hold until you know who's in place. Now, again, I don't want to start something he could very well be back in place at Arkansas next year. And I'm not talking about a hot seat situation where his job's in jeopardy. This is about what Eric Musselman wants to do. So we'll see how that plays out, where it goes. But again, if he's back, then something changed in the calculation, in my opinion. Something changed. And the narrative will be he was never going to leave. And who's talking about leaving? But I'm telling you, that narrative will be played if he stays. But I still lean toward maybe he's not back for a year 6.
Yeah, and there's nothing that right now that has besides just rumors in the wind that has, I think, people believing that Eric Musselman walks at the end of the season. And the university, there's no rumblings of him getting fired. He's had one bad year. We've talked about it multiple times throughout the season where that happens to teams. You look at UNC and Duke and Kansas the last few years. They've had years where they've missed the NCAA tournament and then they've bounced right back. So that's potentially possible for Muss. But then you kind of look at what's out there in Louisville and Ohio State, and those are two, interesting jobs that both of those are going to be looking for a new head coach potentially, and Ohio State especially after firing Chris Holtmann a couple weeks ago. But, that's all going to come in due time. Let's look now at the high school recruits. We'll end with a little bit of recruiting. State championships going on this weekend in Hot Springs. Any Arkansas names that fans should know about who are getting ready to prepare for those final games?
Yeah, so when you look at just the state tournament leading up to the finals coming up, several prospects that Arkansas has been recruiting. I'm going to start with Terrion Burgess, class of 2025, 6'9" combo forward out of Benton. Has had a monster season, averaging a double-double, most nights a double-double. He's taken his game to another level here in the state tournament. Benton punched its ticket with a win over Little Rock Parkview yesterday in Searcy in the 5A state tournament. But 31 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 blocks for Burgess. He has those kind of games all the time. But when you watch postseason, Evan, like I do, and I'm out covering these games, you want to see what do players do when the pressure's on, as the season's winding down to winning it all. And Burgess has been as good as I've seen. Long strider, his skill development's really emerged. Very athletic, very cerebral player. A guy that's determined to win. He plays with that fire. And so this is a guy, when you look at 6'9", the measurables are there. The athleticism's there, and then his game has just gotten better and better. But the Benton Panthers will be playing their 5A South foe, a team that Benton swept during the 5A South this year to win the conference title of Pine Bluff Zebras, defending 5A state champs. We know Courtney Crutchfield going to Mizzou, football player, really good, outstanding basketball player. So be keeping an eye on that in Hot Springs to see if God, I've gone blank. If Burgess can bring a state title home to for the Benton Panthers.
And Kevin, the final hog that we'll talk about as we're running out of time is Isaiah Seeley.
2025, same class as Burgess. National top 50 4-star, mentioned Burgess, national number 37 4-star. So both of these guys top 50 in that 2025 class. But Seeley out of Springdale, also a nice run. Now Springdale is out of the 6A picture, not going to make it to the finals, but he had a final game in the tournament, big 33-point game. And so when you look at the next pressing high school class, those are the two in-state guys who not only had outstanding seasons, but outstanding runs. And then real quick, Evan, class of 2026, making the finals, JJ Jashawn Andrews, 6'6" guard out of Little Rock Christian Academy, a top 25 star according to ESPN. The Warriors are going to try to defend their 4A state title back in Hot Springs. And we'll see, we'll see if they're able to make it a repeat back to back. And one more, class of 2026, when we look at the matchup I mentioned with the Benton Panthers and Terrion Burgess, you had Jacob Lanier and Maumelle on the other side of that back in the quarterfinals just a couple of days ago. Lanier, 6'6" guard in that 2026 class, national top 30 player, a 4-star, 23 points and 14 rebounds, a big double-double, even in a losing cause against Benton. But it just shows you these Arkansas recruits, all four of those players from 2025 two more in 2026 have hog offers. All four of them had outstanding runs during this state tournament play. Not all of them made it to finals play. A couple of them did, so we'll keep our eyes on Burgess and Andrews moving forward.
Yeah, it should be fun to keep watching these guys as they try to compete for some state titles. That's going to do it for the Hog Group Reports. For Kevin McPherson, I'm Evan Camigo. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.